Tonight, a toast to Warnie. Family and friends gather for the cricket greats St Kilda send-off.
Lights will guide you home.
An escalation in Ukraine. Russia launches a hypersonic missile. Australians sending weapons and coal. Changes coming for COVID isolation rules as the Premier enters campaign mode. A man threatens an elderly woman in a Richmond street. Hear from the hero restaurateur who made a citizen's arrest. A family business destroyed in an early morning factory fire. And the Hawks too good for the Roos as round one provides a much needed boost to our city.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. Shane Warne's closest friends and family have said goodbye in an emotional private funeral honouring his life as a legendary sportsman and loving father. Cameras were permitted to capture a lap of honour at his beloved St Kilda Football Club, tears flowing before a public memorial later this month at the MCG.
A goodbye that came far sooner than anyone expected. Shane Warne's children and parents, Bridget and Keith, in front of about 80 friends and family.
As we have a final toast to the great Shane Keith Warne. To Warnie!
A cheers with 708 Gin, Warnie's own brand. Our cameras were invited in to capture a lap of honour. The soundtrack, Coldplay, the band singer Chris Martin, an old friend.
Lights will guide you home.
Shane Warne's beloved St Kilda Football Club hosting the service, and where the Saints usually go marching in, this time it was Warnie, carried by his dad, brother and son. Cricketers Michael Clarke, Ian Healy and Merv Hughes were there. From showbiz, Danny Minogue and Glenn Robbins. Ex-wife Simone, even ex-opponents. Former England captain Michael Vaughan flying in for the funeral. And Andrew Nofatu, who tried CPR on Shane Warne when he was found unresponsive in Thailand. Everyone here today given a St Kilda scarf. Eddie Maguire was MC.
It was one of the greatest honours of my life to be able to be involved.
He described Shane Warne as a superman who was fallible.
It was very much like Shane. There were elements of joviality and levity.
His close friends spoke. I don't know how they did it, to be honest, but they held themselves together.
Not everyone who wanted to come could. Ex-fiancée Liz Hurley, stuck between filming commitments, posted her tribute on Instagram. It still hasn't really sunk in that he's gone. It seems too cruel. A public memorial is at the MCG Wednesday week. Tickets are expected to be available as early as this Tuesday. Elton John and Ed Sheeran, both great friends of Warnie, will send individual video messages for the service. An event for the world to say goodbye after Warnie's family did that today.
I hope they pack out the MCG. That'd be a fitting tribute to a great man.
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Russia has inflicted the single deadliest attack on Ukrainian forces since the war began 3 weeks ago. More than 40 Marines were killed when a naval base in the south of the country was bombed using what's believed to be a hypersonic missile. We warn viewers may find parts of Hugh Whitfeld's report distressing.
Too heartbreaking to show in full a child, still in nappies, plucked from the rubble in Mykolaiv. Another innocent casualty of this conflict. More than 40 killed in a single attack, soldiers and civilians. Ukrainian Marines sifting through the wreckage for their fallen brothers. The worst day for Ukraine's military since the invasion began. Volodymyr Zelensky now resorting to threats in a bid to get Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table.
The more Ukrainians tell the world about it, the more support we find. The more Russia uses terror against Ukraine, the worse the consequences will be.
But Russia isn't listening. Instead, a new weapon claims an underground military depot was destroyed using hypersonic missiles, the Kinjal. Russian for dagger. It's a brutal tool in Putin's arsenal, capable of flying more than 5 times the speed of sound. That means they're hard to detect and even harder to shoot out of the sky. Their impact can be devastating, a payload equivalent to more than 3 tons of TNT. Hypersonic missiles not needed in Mariupol. Conventional artillery was enough here. Local officials say thousands of residents are being forcibly taken into Russia. The city almost empty, desperate pleas from those left behind. Save the civilian population, this police officer begs. The city is destroyed and it is wiped off the face of the earth. And that theatre sheltering civilians as it was bombed by Russian forces, levelled. The words children still visible and hundreds trapped inside.
To do this to a peaceful city, what its occupiers did to it, is a terror that will be remembered for centuries to come.
At Lviv train station, thousands of people still hope to flee west to Poland and beyond. But others are heading east. In peacetime, the train to Kharkiv takes about 15 hours, but they're no longer calculating the journey in hours, but days. It'll be travelling through a conflict zone, a journey that is so risky. Alongside men heading for the front lines, ordinary civilians returning home. Why are you going to Zaporizhzhia? I'm heading back to work, Irina tells me. She says she doesn't feel safe returning to her hometown, but the bombs are falling near Lviv now too.
And Hugh Whitfeld joins us now live from Lviv. Hugh, Ukraine continues to defy Russia in the skies.
Well, Beck, despite claiming to now be using those hypersonic missiles and nearly a month into this war, UK defence officials believe that Russia still does not have air superiority over Ukraine, despite, of course, having a much bigger air force. That is in part due to the support and assistance that Ukraine has been receiving from the West, but also the fact that the Kremlin clearly underestimated the level of resistance that Russian forces would face here. Here in Lviv, another night of air raid sirens going off. The war is clearly creeping closer. This city has been largely a safe haven for tens of thousands of people who've come here from cities in the east, but they now know that the missiles are falling around here and they are watching what is happening to their hometowns back in the east. Beck.
Hugh Whitfeld reporting live. Thank you. And Australia is stepping up its support of Ukraine, pledging an additional $50 million in military and humanitarian aid. Weapons from the national stockpile will be sent to help stop the Russian advance, while a shipload of Australian coal will help keep the lights on in 1 million Ukrainian homes.
In the face of a relentless onslaught, the Ukrainian people have been defiant, but they need help.
They have made requests for more arms, for more humanitarian support, and they've also asked us for our coal.
Requests the government's only too happy to meet, raiding the national stockpile to send an extra $21 million worth of weapons and ammunition to the front line.
Anti-tank guided weapons, shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles, these seem to be the most useful capabilities going in.
70,000 tonnes of Australian thermal coal will also soon be making its way to Ukraine to feed the country's electricity network.
It's our coal. We dug it up. We've arranged the ship. We've put it on the ship and we're sending it there to Ukraine to help power up their resistance.
The government's also taken the significant step of immediately banning all Australian exports of alumina and aluminium ores to Russia, severely restricting its capacity to produce aluminium, a critical ingredient in the manufacture of guns and missiles. But that's not all. Australia is stepping up its humanitarian aid, committing an extra $30 million to help what is becoming the fastest growing refugee crisis since the Second World War.
Currently, we see around 6.5 million people internally displaced and a further 3.3 million having fled to neighbouring countries.
The focus? Protecting women, children and the elderly.
The money will help save lives effectively and provide comfort for so many.
Since the start of the invasion, 5,000 Ukrainians have been granted visas to come to Australia. About 700 have arrived so far.
Every day we will see more people coming who are in a very bad way.
From today, they'll be eligible for temporary humanitarian visas, allowing them to stay for 3 years, to work and access Medicare. Help to rebuild shattered lives. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Sports broadcaster Megan Barnard says she's grateful for the support she's received after an offensive audio recording about her went viral. Posting on social media, Barnard says nobody should be spoken about in such a degrading manner. Her Fox Sports colleague Tom Morris was sacked over his homophobic and sexist comments. Changes to isolation rules for household COVID contacts are on the way, according to the Premier. Daniel Andrews says the state government is working with New South Wales to finalise changes while keeping a close eye on the rising case numbers in both states.
I've had discussions with the Premier of New South Wales on multiple occasions about this. We're very keen to move down this path, but we need to do it with a proper understanding of how many extra cases it'll mean, because it will, just logic tells you, it will drive the number of cases.
There were 6,694 new cases today. However, we recorded 0 deaths for the first time since December. And the Premier appeared to be in campaign mode today, hinting that an announcement on elective surgery is also on the way. And while the state opposition was missing in action, Daniel Andrews was praising South Australia's new Labor leader.
It wasn't the most captive audience.
It is about health, just to be clear.
But the Premier made certain his announcement of another 10,000 TAFE positions didn't fall on deaf ears, and it's clear an election is on the horizon.
When we came to government a few years ago, TAFE was smashed. It was on its knees.
But it was a Labor victory across the border in South Australia that the Premier was taking notes on.
It's a fantastic win. He should be proud. Him and his team put a positive plan to the people of South Australia, and they have resoundingly endorsed that.
And hoping to replicate.
As well as lots of announcements we'll make in the second half of the year as we continue to add to our positive plan.
The state government has continually refused to confirm how many Victorians are waiting for elective surgery, saying they're waiting on a report. The last update in December had 80,000 names on it.
A lot of patients unable to get the care that they need, and we'll have some very positive announcements to make in that space soon as well.
And while the state opposition has been media shy this weekend, not fronting cameras once, it gave the state government free rein to spruik its mental health tax.
The other side of politics, not that we're here to talk about them, but it bears thinking about. They're going to take away that $3.8 billion on day one if they get the chance.
Last night, outgoing South Australian Premier Stephen Marshall left his concession speech powerless and carless. The Premier was able to find his today, hopes it's still there in November. Chanel Vella, 7 News.
A Hero restaurant owner has carried out a brave citizen's arrest on a man who'd been threatening an elderly woman with a power saw. Diners ran for cover when their dinner was interrupted by scenes described as like out of a horror movie.
Barefoot and agitated, a man is arrested on Bridge Road while his mother tries to intervene. Police allege he'd been threatening a woman with a power saw.
Horror movie, like a horror movie, you know? One of those horror movies which you see people chasing with the chaser.
Moments earlier, he can be seen with a small but potentially deadly power tool in his hand, stalking this woman, a 76-year-old Greek lady living with dementia. Salvatore Micali's restaurant had been packed full of Friday night diners, including children, when they both came through the door.
She came into my arm because she knows me, and she asked for help, pretty much. She was crying, almost in tears, and all the patrons, they just left. Scared and frightened.
Just yelling and screaming, really, at the end of the day. A lot of yelling and screaming from customers and people on the street.
Salvatore and another customer managed to convince the offender to turn off the power tool and put it down. The restaurant owner held him in a citizen's arrest until police arrived.
His face was completely transformed. I think he was taken by anger.
The 47-year-old, who lives nearby, has since been charged with a range of offences, including reckless conduct, endangering life and assault with a weapon. The victim was traumatised but wasn't injured.
It was a moment that you will never forget.
Christy Cooper, 7 News.
Police are investigating whether a driver may have suffered a medical episode before a deadly smash on the Bellarine Peninsula. A ute ended up on its roof where 3 vehicles collided at Swan Bay. A female driver was pronounced dead at the scene while 3 occupants from the other vehicles were taken to hospital. A family business only just back on its feet after COVID has been destroyed by fire. The events company's warehouse went up in flames overnight, leaving its owners with nothing.
30 years of hard work and sacrifice destroyed by fire.
It's gone, up in smoke, literally.
Event suppliers Renata and Stav Hatsapantelis had only just got back on their feet after COVID when their Cheltenham light, sound and prop warehouse went up in flames.
We've had the worst 2 years of, as an events industry, and we were recovering.
When the alarms went off around 11 p.m, they assumed it was an intruder, but the building was ablaze. 70 firefighters sent to the Herald Street property to try to control the inferno.
Due to the deep-seated nature of the fire and the ferocity of the fire, we weren't able to get inside, unfortunately.
Thankfully, no one was inside, but the fires left the family with nothing, save for a damage bill in the hundreds of thousands. In the hours since the fire, the couple has been overwhelmed by the support it's received from the events industry. Other companies have offered them temporary office space and to fulfil their upcoming jobs so clients aren't left in the lurch.
They're all making phone calls and reaching out, so it's a big thank you to all you guys out there.
The cause of the blaze is yet to be determined. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Former Western Bulldogs player Brennan Stack has been charged over a sickening attack in a Perth car park that's too graphic to show in full. Police allege Stack and another man kicked and punched 2 women outside a nightclub following an argument. It's believed they didn't know each other. 33-year-old Stack has been remanded in custody, charged with causing bodily harm. Well, Sam Mitchell has made a dream start to his coaching career. Jack, the Hawks, so they were flying today.
They were, Beck, yes. The new era at Hawthorn has begun with a bang as the young brigade put on a show at the MCG while North's new #1 man put in an eye-catching performance. Jeremy Cameron out of hospital, the latest on the Cats' injury troubles. A standing ovation for LeBron James in the NBA. And Victoria gets an early taste of the Commonwealth Games, courtesy of an Aussie legend. And Beck, we can reveal the brave new tactic coaches have been trying in round 1. That's all coming up in sport.
Okay, can't wait. Thank you very much, Jackie. Well, more charges have been laid over a deadly Docklands stabbing. Details next on 7 News. Also, the future of healthcare, a new national organisation to focus on genomic research. Why the principal of Victoria's largest Islamic college is being sued. The dangers of creating TikTok videos, what parents need to know. And later, the reason why this family is ready to run for the kids. A further 2 men have been charged in relation to the brutal stabbing death of a young man last weekend. Emma O'Sullivan is at Docklands with details. Good evening, Emma. They were arrested yesterday.
That's right, Beck. A 22-year-old man from Taylors Hill. He's been charged with violent disorder, affray and committing an indictable offence while on bail. The other man is a 20-year-old from Epping, also charged with affray and violent disorder, and the pair will face court tomorrow. Yesterday, in a major breakthrough, police arrested 3 men, charging 2 of them with the murder of 23-year-old Western Australian man Aaliyah Riak. He was in Melbourne to celebrate his birthday. His older brother was seriously injured, stabbed in the back. Police have emphasised this investigation still isn't over, saying it will continue until every person involved in the violence is held to account for their actions. The victim's shattered family still hoping for answers about what caused this fight. Beck?
Emma O'Sullivan reporting live. Thank you so much. A new $28 million investment in genomics is promising to make Australians live longer and with better lives. The new agency will change the way health conditions are diagnosed and treated, ensuring less invasive care.
Changing the way patients are cared for.
Rather than being reactive to wait till problems occur, the focus of genomics is on rapid and early diagnosis, on prediction and on prevention.
Genomic medicine uses a patient's genetic information for improved diagnostic and therapeutic purposes.
This is about what's called precision medicine,
or the ability to understand the specific needs of an individual with their health and tailored medical treatment.
We'll have a future world in which we prevent disease before it develops. We remove the trial and error from treatments.
The new Genomics Australia agency will combine research and treatment, ensuring every Australian has access to the newest genomic technologies.
We're already seeing through our research that genomic medicine is transforming the way we deliver healthcare.
Genomics Australia will oversee the $500 million 10-year genomics mission.
The federal agency will call on states to contribute their own research, but it will also put us in the global genomic conversation.
To make Australia a global lead in the use of genomics in medicine, to make us a country where genomics saves lives and creates jobs.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
A female teacher is suing the principal of Victoria's largest Islamic school. In federal court documents, the former teacher alleges the founder of Truganina's Al Taqwa College, Omar Halak, sexually assaulted or harassed her multiple times in 2015. The alleged victim was 25 at the time. The woman claims she's been unable to hold down work as a teacher due to symptoms of post-traumatic stress. Al Taqwa made headlines during the pandemic for 2 major COVID outbreaks. An increasing number of children are ending up in hospital with serious injuries after attempting dangerous TikTok challenges. The social media trend has prompted growing concerns right across the country.
It's the dangerous new trend happening in schools and behind closed doors.
And my head hit the wall.
It's called the Blackout Challenge, daring children to hold their breath until they pass out.
Heaps of my mates were doing it, so I just gave it a go.
But this 14-year-old vows to never do it again after one of his friends was taken to hospital.
I was a bit scared for him and worried.
Last week, paramedics responded to an alarming number of calls where students had to be treated for seizures and head injuries.
There was 4 calls in 1 hour in southeast Queensland, and all of those children needed transport to hospital.
In the US, the challenge claimed the life of 10-year-old Nyla Anderson and left 12-year-old Joshua Haley-Yesus brain dead. These incredibly dangerous challenges are now being monitored. TikTok has removed the blackout videos and other trends that don't meet its community guidelines. Another is the Devious Lick Challenge, showing students damaging and stealing school property. Jen encourages parents to speak to their kids.
I don't think it's a matter of not using social media, but it is informing them when they observe risks.
Before it turns deadly. Caitlin Steadman, 7 News.
Estelle Grieping joins us now. Estelle, cloud cover returned late this afternoon.
Well, Beck, we were sunny this morning to round out the warmer weekend, but things turned grey as the day progressed. So this afternoon, most of our suburbs had seen a mix of sun and cloud. This is what it looked like at the Balti Bridge this morning around 7 a.m, but the skies were grey at Hastings Pier. This was taken around 1 o'clock. But the weather's becoming sunnier tomorrow and warmer too. And I'll have the details after sport. Beck?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Estelle. Well, the return of big-time footy is providing a much-needed boost to the city. How Melbourne's coming back to life next on 7 News. Also, complaints over childcare centres feeding kids for as little as 65 cents a day. The $50 million pitch to end plastic waste. And just how healthy are eggs? The new quest for a definitive answer. The first round of the AFL season has provided a badly needed boost to bars and pubs. It's estimated footy fans spent $500,000 at hospitality venues over the first 4 games featuring Victorian sides.
Fans aren't just flocking back to the footy.
What can I say? Go the Hawks.
They're filling pubs and bars, inner city venues reaping the benefits.
10 times as busy. We jumped up straight away last night, busy for 12 hours straight. It was chockers. It was good.
The boost not just in the shadows of the MCG. On Thursday night, South Bank foot traffic was up 70% on the previous week.
It definitely has gone up since the food is started. Like, we're getting a lot of bookings, a lot of people coming in.
Data from NAB estimates round one injected $1.6 million into the economy, more than $500,000 spent in hospitality.
Way too long. Way too long. Very excited. Long while since I've been to the MCG.
Everyone's around. I love it. It's great house.
Events are back too. Melbourne's major Asia-Pacific events trade show known as AIM rolling out the welcome mat for the first time since the pandemic.
It'll spread the message that Melbourne is open for business, that we're ready to receive guests again from all around the world.
Events buyers from around the globe treated to what Melbourne does best, warm hospitality. Another reason for visitors to come into the city is the Melbourne Midweek Money Scheme, allowing diners to claim a rebate on their restaurant bills. Since the fund reopened 3 weeks ago, it's already paid out $3.5 million. Midweek money will continue until the $10 million in funding is exhausted. Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News. In developing news, a gunman is on the run after shooting a man outside a toddler's birthday party in Sydney. Guests scrambled to safety after hearing gunshots. The victim was shot in the leg and shoulder but survived. Police believe it was a targeted attack and have launched a manhunt to find the shooter. A shock new report has revealed some childcare centres are feeding children on as little as 65 cents a day. 1 in 5 directors and cooks who responded to United Workers Union survey say their food budget isn't enough. Meals often include bread and butter and pasta, which they claim lack in nutritional value. The CSIRO has unveiled an ambitious plan to reduce plastic waste. Australia's brightest minds are now banding together in the hope of stopping pollution and creating billions of dollars in revenue for the economy.
They're the eyesores of the sea, congesting our waterways. But for Australian scientists, they see plastic as innovation.
All of these things that ended up in the ocean, and again, 3/4 of the waste is plastics, started out in somebody's hand.
The CSIRO leading the charge, developing new technologies to axe waste. Plastic-eating insects, lower-cost cameras that monitor stormwater drains, and wrappers made of seaweed are all part of the plan.
We're looking at brewing bottles, fermenting plastic.
A $50 million cash splash led by the science agency alongside the government and other Australian universities.
We've started to draw more of that amazing science through to turn it into actual real products that industry can use.
With a pledge to cut plastic waste by 80% over the next decade.
We know that by working together, working collectively, there is an opportunity to address the plastics waste issue.
Production of plastic around the globe is set to double by 2040. The CSIRO believes this program will not only reduce waste, but look at new ways to make the plastic profitable.
To turn what is now a waste stream into a completely new, more valuable, renewable resource.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have been met with protesters as they touch down in Belize for their first major engagement. Locals have expressed their unease after Prince William's patronage of a conservation group that invested in property near Indigenous land.
If he lands in PG at the airstrip, no problem, but not in our community. Yes, that's what I want to say.
The tour is aimed at drumming up support in Belize, Jamaica and the Bahamas in hopes they don't follow Barbados and become a republic. Dozens of homes have been destroyed by a fast-moving wildfire in Texas. Multiple blazes have now merged, torching at least 18,000 hectares. There have been apocalyptic scenes, towns reduced to ashes. Shifting winds have made it challenging for firefighters. Locals have described a wall of flames taking hold in English marshland. The blaze took hold close to homes not far from Liverpool. Police have received reports the fire was deliberately lit. Getting paid to eat eggs for breakfast sounds too good to be true, but that's exactly what researchers are shelling out in a new study. The aim to crack the age-old question, are eggs really good for your health?
It's hard to beat a breakfast like this. But are eggs all they're cracked up to be?
Eggs have been good, then bad, then good, then bad. The messages have been really mixed over the years.
UniSA researchers are hoping they'll soon have a definitive answer.
Eggs are one of the few foods that's high in cholesterol but low in saturated fat. And there's evidence starting to emerge now that eating eggs won't push your bad cholesterol up, and that in fact it might be useful for reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease.
The study will compare 3 different diets over several months. For 5 weeks, participants will eat a high egg diet. For the next 5, they'll eat no eggs at all and foods with high saturated fat. Finally, they'll eat the typical Australian diet, which is high in cholesterol and saturated fat, for 5 weeks.
They'll have to come in at the end of each diet phase to get their blood pressure, height, weight measured.
Researchers are currently scrambling to find more participants. They're on the hunt for any 18 to 60-year-old non-smokers with healthy cholesterol levels to take part. It's worth considering, as each successful applicant will receive $1,200. Rosie Barnett, 7 News.
Victorian attractions and tourism operators have taken out top gongs at the National Tourism Awards. The Royal Botanic Gardens won gold in the major tourist attraction category. Ballarat Heritage Festival, Destination Gippsland, Wilson's Promontory Cruises and Green Olive at Red Hill, also took out their categories. Congratulations. Well, Melbourne's set to benefit from a security boost as more workers return to the CBD. Details next on 7 News. Also, we meet little Riley. If you needed a reason to run for the kids, this is it. The satellite launch promising faster internet around the world. And a former demon tackles the gruelling Melbourne Ironman competition. $1.7 million of taxpayer money is being spent to install 28 new security bollards in the city as workers return to the office. They're designed to stop vehicle attacks. They are 30 new closed circuit security cameras and loudspeakers at 94 sites for emergency announcements. SpaceX has launched its latest batch of Starlink satellites into space. The Falcon 9 carried 53 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Starlink provides high-speed broadband internet across the globe. It's the 12th time the reusable Falcon 9 first stage booster has launched and landed. There are just 2 weeks to go until thousands take to the streets for Melbourne's Run for the Kids. The event returns after 2 years of COVID, with grateful parents and little patients among those ready to get going for the Good Friday appeal. Tiny Riley McMaster, hungry and thriving thanks to her loving parents and the Royal Children's Hospital. The 3-month-old was born with a bump on her head, which grew into an enormous haematoma and required urgent surgery.
It would be fatal. There's no doubt about it. She could have got septicemia, meningitis.
Riley was only 12 days old when doctors performed a marathon 3.5-hour operation to remove the lump, complete with 30 stitches down the back of her tiny head.
Her head is healed really nicely. It will not even show when she's older, so her hair will grow over.
The baby's grateful parents have formed Team Riley, gathering family and friends to train for the Run for Kids long course.
I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. And again, we set ourselves a task of $2,000. We've almost reached that.
They're dedicating the marathon to every staff member who helped restore Riley's health.
They all made us feel like we were so special, but we know that they make every child and every family feel special. We can't thank them enough.
For anyone feeling energetic, there's still time to sign up.
1, 2, 3, Team Riley!
And children's health charity Uncle Bob's Club has hosted a garden fete to celebrate 80 years partnering with the Good Friday appeal. The day was packed with food stalls and entertainment. As you'd expect, the celebration doubled as fundraiser for the Royal Children's Hospital appeal. Some of Australia's fittest athletes have put their bodies to the test for the Melbourne Ironman competition. Former Demons captain Nathan Jones completed the 1.9 kilometre swim, 90 kilometre bike and half marathon in just over 4 hours and 15 minutes.
That was right up there with one of the hardest things I've done, but good fun, very rewarding, that's for sure.
That's amazing. More than 2,000 people took part. Good on them. Jackie Felgate's back to sport. Sam Mitchell, he's made it 3 from 3 for the AFL's new coaches, Jack.
That's right, Beck. Yes, he's joined Michael Voss and Craig McRae with first-up wins to start their careers. Jack Gunston winds back the clock to kickstart the Hawks, while the Roos' first gamer dazzles on a debut that puts his mum in tears. There's breaking news from the match review with a big bomber in strive. Hear from Cat star Jeremy Cameron after being discharged from hospital. And disaster for Dan ahead of the Formula One season opener. Welcome back. Hawthorn has notched its first win under new coach Sam Mitchell in emphatic style at the MCG. The Hawks rebounded after a strong first half from the Kangaroos, boosted by their star number 1 pick.
And so it begins for Sam Mitchell.
Relief for Mitchell in his coaching debut, building the youngest Hawks side since 2005.
Genuinely a split between nerves and excitement, and I think the players actually felt exactly the same way.
A seesawing encounter, North had the advantage early, with their much-hyped recruit firing in his first AFL game.
Now Horne-Francis! Believe the hype!
Tears from mum in the grandstand, but a blow when Ben Mackay was subbed off with concussion. The Roos lost their half-time lead.
Ben's one of our best intercept markers, so that probably hurt us more, I think, than the matchups.
And Hawthorn capitalised. Jack Gunston kicking his 400th career goal.
A normal transmission has returned.
While Mitch Lewis was dangerous up front.
He rolls it through for his third.
Jath arguably the best on ground in his return from injury.
So much confidence going into the season as well. So nice having all the fans here. Loving it.
A special moment for Finn McGuinness kicking his first AFL goal.
From the pocket!
Success for Chad Wingard rocking the long sleeves and Jai Newcombe impressing with this grab. But a sour note for Sam Mitchell with Max Lynch concussed and sent home feeling unwell.
One on the cheekbone.
We had a lot of sore and tired boys towards the end, so I think that means we left it all out there today.
Laura Spurway, 7 News.
There's relief for the Bombers. Sam Draper came under scrutiny by the match review officer. Chief football reporter Tom Brown has the very latest. Hello, Tom. The Ruckman is free to play.
Jack, it was tough viewing yesterday for Bombers fans, but there is some good news tonight. Sam Draper just fined $2,000 for striking Radaglia. It means that Draper, good for Bombers fans, will be free to take on the Lions, who will be missing significantly Mitch Robinson. Robinson suspended for a week for forceful front-on contact with Xavier Dersma. For the Bombers, though, this week, it'll be bring your mouth guards type stuff at training at Tullamarine.
Ben Rutten's message to his midfielders, get your hands dirty. Matthew Lloyd frank in his assessment.
The Bombers were really, really poor. I thought it was a bruise-free game of football.
It's certainly not what we stand for as a footy club.
The Bombers short a big-bodied midfielder, and Jake Stringer's availability will depend on training this week. It's only round 1, but clever coaches are already coming up with tactics to navigate the stand rule. In this example, the Dogs standing 5 metres behind the mark.
Come around, do you want the mark or not? Outside 5, stay out.
So he's backed off the mark by 5 metres.
Luke Beveridge, Simon Goodwin and Craig McRae all tried it. The idea, it frees up the player on the mark and gets more defenders behind the ball. Carlton say they haven't had any more COVID cases this weekend, and the AFL is likely to fall short of its record crowd projection. 313,000 fans going to round 1 so far. The league saying they're happy to have fans back at the footy. Tom Brown, 7 News.
Jeremy Cameron has been cleared of serious injury after a brutal knock against the Bombers yesterday. The Cat star was discharged from hospital overnight and spent the day recovering on his farm.
I just had to go through the necessary things to tick off, make sure there was no internal bleeding and stuff, but overall feeling great, and I'll be here all day if you want me.
He'll still need to overcome a hip injury to face the Swans on Friday night. Buddy Franklin kicked just the 1 goal and needs 4 more to reach 1,000. From Shepparton to the big time, Josh Rochelle has dazzled on debut for the Crows. Taken at pick 6 in last year's draft, the 18-year-old kicked his first goal with his first kick in footy, but he didn't stop there.
Off hands, the third for Rochelle, the new cold hero.
Indeed, a big bomb from 50 was his 4th, but Fremantle clinched the win by just 1 point. Australia will field an unchanged 11 for the third and deciding test against Pakistan starting tomorrow. Leg spinner Mitch Swepson keeps his spot. All-rounder Cameron Green is again the third seamer, while paceman Josh Hazlewood misses out for the second test running.
We thought this is our best 11. I think it was good enough last week. We just didn't quite get over the line.
The Aussies are the first foreign players to return to Lahore since the 2009 terror attack, which drove international cricket out of Pakistan. LeBron James has moved to second on the all-time NBA scoring list. He received a standing ovation as he passed Karl Malone, who was on 36,928. The King had 38 points to the Lakers' loss to Washington.
And there he is. And then there was one. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and LeBron James 1-2.
Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics scouts dropped by Melbourne United's game this afternoon. The league leaders crushed Adelaide 101-74. Melbourne City is 1 point clear on top of the A-League ladder. Coming from a goal down against the Victory, they levelled up just before half-time to settle for a 1-1 draw.
And Curtis Good, who scored Melbourne City's first goal of this season, has struck again here.
It's the third consecutive draw between the two sides. Charles Leclerc had his Ferrari flying in qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix, setting the pace before Max Verstappen attempted to grab pole position.
And he misses out on pole. It's Ferrari that get pole position in Bahrain. Charles Leclerc will hear the cheers of the crowd.
Seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton will start from 5th on the grid, and disaster for Aussie Dan Ricciardo back down to 18th position. Winter Olympic champion Jakara Anthony has made more history, becoming Australia's most successful winter sports athlete in the singles season, winning a total of 12 medals.
To take that out just really shows how consistent I've been able to be this season at a really high level. You know, it wasn't easy.
She is a champion. The 23-year-old from Barwon Heads won 2 silvers in France overnight, topping the overall standings to finish the season. And Victoria has received an early taste of the Commonwealth Games, with the Queen's Baton spending the day travelling through the state. Champion runner Steve Moneghetti was on hand in Ballarat with some budding athletes alongside him. It's part of a global relay that covers 14,000 kilometres, leading into Birmingham on the 28th of July. And here it is, right here in the studio. The next stop is the Caribbean. Do you know this one? It's got a heart rate monitor in it and a 360-degree camera. It's very fancy. We'll have a contingent of 400 athletes in Birmingham. And, Beck, you can, of course, see the games and hear the Queen's message. It pops up. I've been told not to touch it there. Live and free on 7 from the end of July. Do you want to go?
Oh, yeah. I want to see what my heart rate's racing or not.
Do you know, I asked if we could turn it on and they said no.
OK, we won't drop it. Estelle is next with the forecast. Estelle, as our weekend sunshine here to stay.
Well, Beck, we're starting the week out strong, but that's before showers and potential storms head our way. I'll have the details next.
See what's happening on our streets as Melbourne comes back to life at night. On patrol with police on a tragic weekend inside the front line. Plus, slashing grocery prices by up to 80%. 7 News at 6 o'clock.
Hello again. We've ended our weekend under partly cloudy skies, but sunshine is on the way. In the city today, we reached a top of 25 degrees. Yesterday's clear conditions made for a spectacular sunset. This was taken at South Bank, and Melbourne continued to put on a show this morning. This was the view at Lilydale Lake. Temperatures today hovered around 30 degrees. Ballarat reached 27. On the satellite, and a weak low-pressure trough over central Victoria will stay in place tomorrow as a cold front develops near the Bight. But tomorrow we can expect patchy morning fog before a warm and dry sunny day. There could be some low cloud about the suburbs too. In the city, from a low of 16, we'll reach 27. There'll be no rain in sight. To the 7-day outlook, and we could see showers develop on Tuesday. It'll still feel warm at top of 25, but that coupled with showers in the afternoon and evening means we could see a thunderstorm too. On Wednesday, some suburbs could wake to showers, but after that we dry out. On Thursday, we reach 20 with a mix of sun and cloud. The temperature rises as we end the week, 22 on Friday, 23 on Saturday and 24 on Sunday. But tomorrow we'll feel warm in this sunshine, and from a low of 16, we'll reach 27. Beck?
Looks good. Thank you very much, Estelle. And that is 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates throughout the night. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.